Welcome back to our Crew Ready explanation videos. Today we'll be going over the inventory items and the inventory views to understand all the information that's displayed here. This is one of the more complex user-facing pages. Um, the inventory domain has more than just items. It also handles the automatic order generation and inventory counts. Those two items will be left for another video given the amount of information we have to discuss today. We'll be doing a top to bottom view, looking at the summaries and filter tabs first, and then moving on to the actual item cards. At the top here, we can see our header with some basic summary information of the environment status, as well as a new item button for easily adding new items if you're an admin. The summary items here are basically just describing the number of items, the number of categories, and then a quick overview of the status of those items within the environment. An individual item will typically not be added or created very often in CrewReady in the intended use case. Items are meant to represent everything that you keep stocked in your inventory, adding a new item when you start stocking a new thing, and removing an item if you decide not to stock it anymore. Simply not having any of an item, as we can see with the charcoal, we have 0 on hand, would not typically constitute removing that item. You just mark it as having 0. You can have any number of items in any number of categories. Then we have a brief summary of the item statuses here. We'll go over item statuses and indicators in a little bit later in the video. You can jump ahead to that if you like, looking at the chapters on the YouTube progress bar. Then we have the number of multi-location items. Multi-location status is a status that can be set by either the admin or the staff, depending on the permissions that you have set up in your environment. And it allows better understanding of the real world inventory situation. Next, we have our filter bar. Here on the filter bar, you can search things by name, category, or if they have aliases set up, that can be used as well. Aliases are a more advanced feature that will be covered in the admin advanced video if you're interested in seeing how this works. So an example here, if I want to look at all my meds, I can filter by meds. And that will, if I scroll down, you'll see that everything here is stuff that's in my meds category. Because I can filter by categories, or I can also filter by the name of things. So for example, by searching adult, I see my adult pads, my adult NRBs, BVMs, and so on. We also have a more specific category filter that shows every category of the items available in your environment, and you can set that to only show you a certain subset of items. Finally, all of our different statuses. We'll be going over statuses, like I said earlier, a little bit later. One thing that I'll call out here that isn't a specific status, but is more of a catch-all of anything that has a status alert on it, and it just filters out anything that has no status. And finally, the sort. The default order can be defined under the admin tools item section. You can look more into admin tools in our admin basics video. But here you can also filter by or sort by other values if for whatever case you may be in. Some of the most commonly used ones in my workplace are expiry date filtering to see what's expired next and to see what's been most recently modified or updated. You can change the sort to go by ascending or descending by simply toggling this button. Back to the default view. Finally, in our filter bar here, we have our view mode. The default view is the cards view where you can edit the amount of inventory that's stored, but you can also get a more brief, quick summary list view here as well. The list view, because it is more compact, does not allow you to edit or adjust the inventory amounts directly, but it does give you a good overview of all the different items in your system and what their current status is. Finally, we'll move on to the actual item card. I'll go over the list as well, but we'll start with the item card here as it is the option with the most functionality. An item card is simply broken down, and let's actually here. We'll filter to just have one item card we can look at, the epi preload. So what is displayed on an item card can be controlled under the settings, and I will highlight the items that can be hidden on this card as we go through it. So first of all, we have the name of an item. The name of an item is simply whatever it's set to in the settings when the item is created, and that can be adjusted or changed however you need. Then we have the category. Again, this is simply controlled by the item settings. So in this case, our epi preloads are in the meds category. Then we have an updated flag, just to give some context on when this item was last edited or updated. This value will change whenever an amount of inventory is adjusted, such as that right there. I just changed it to say there's 11, so now it will say it was updated just now. If an inventory count is performed on that item, it will update it, even if nothing changed, just to give that context that the item was looked at, as well as anytime that item data is edited, like names and categories, that will be updated as well. Then we have our on-hand value. This can be hidden using the settings if you don't want a total to be displayed. This simply adds up all of the different expiry date values that are stored here. So you can see if I add another 10 epi, it now totals it to 21. It can be controlled in settings whether that includes expired meds. So if I put that down as expiring yesterday, then you'll see the on-hand total now only displays 11. If you would like to include expired amounts in your on-hand total, that can be done using your settings. Then we have our par and limit values. This ties into our auto ordering system. We can go into detail with it here though, since it's displayed. This can be hidden from the item card if you don't want it displayed for your staff when viewing. When an item reaches its par amount and an order email is generated, if that item is at or below par, it will order some of that product or recommend ordering. It never actually performs an order. It simply sends an email to someone in your company saying what needs to be ordered. The limit is you saying, I only have so much room in my storeroom. I never want to have more than this many of an item. So here in this case, I never want to have more than 15 heavy preloads. We'll go into a little bit more the ordering, and there's one other value related to ordering, which we'll get into that later. But this gives you a quick, easy view of what your ordering settings are in case you want to change them if you find you're getting too much or too little of a product. Then we have the number that are on ordered. This again gives a good general status understanding of, okay, I don't have a lot of something, but oh, it's on the way. If you didn't remember what you ordered, that helps give you some context. Or if you're confused as to why an item is not being recommended for order when it's low, and you know that it hasn't been ordered, Crew generated an order at some point in time if it says there's some on order. And if you didn't actually order it, or if you did, but it wasn't marked received for whatever reason, so Crew thinks it's still in the mail, then you know to go and correct that error in the system so it will order things properly. Then finally here, before getting into the actual quantities, we have the single versus multi setting. So the if it's in multi, that indicates that this item is stored in multiple locations in the real world. So for example, if you have your main store area where everyone grabs their items from, and then you have a backup extra spare inventory that's tucked under the stairs or something, then that is a good way to indicate, hey, we do have 11 empty preloads. There might only be 5 in the normal area you grab them from. If there's none there, then we do have 11. Go check in that other store area. Or there's the single setting, which indicates that it's stored in only one location. So if someone sees, oh, there's no epi preloads here, then it's safe to assume that there's none. Now, still use your critical thinking. 11 is a lot of epi preloads to just vanish suddenly, so they probably are somewhere, or maybe someone made a mistake in entering the number. Then we have our expiry rows. So every expiry date of an item has its own row under the items. There is no maximum, though there is a setting for you to set your own maximum. The default is 10. You can increase that higher if you like, though the cards will start to get very big if you have a lot of expiry dates. That's where list view may come in handy for getting a general understanding if you have very big cards with lots of expiry dates. Each expiry date you set the date for whatever it may be, and then you input the number of that item, and you can at any time, if you use some of it, edit these values. Or if the expiry date was incorrect, someone entered it wrong, you can always update that at a later date. If you ever need a new expiry row, you simply add a new expiry row by clicking that button. And if you ever no longer need it, there's 0 of this expiry date left, you can always delete the row to keep your page looking clean. If you use all of an item, you can always just delete the row and it will clear that number and date. It doesn't have to be at 0. Next, we're going to move on to discussing the status flags. As you've seen when using this epi preload example, we have a few different status flags. This status flag is expiring. How many days until it expires can be defined in your environment settings for when something is considered expiring. In this environment, it's set to 28 days. At that time, it will flag the item as yellow. The appearance of that flag, the color, can be controlled in your settings as well. The default is flagging as yellow. It will also note how many are expiring in this header right here as part of your flags. Similar to the expiring value, there's also the expired that we saw earlier. My bad. There we go, expired. That will mark it as red. Again, the color can be controlled in settings. This is if thing expired today. So as of recording, it is currently June 5th. This expires on June 5th, so it's considered expired today, even though it may still be good till end of day, as many companies perform their base duties and so on during the day. So you probably want to take it off your rig at that time. If you want to wait one more day, it's your product, do as you wish. That's simply how it's flagged. Also, the number of expired product is shown in the flag here as well. Another flag that we have is the low stock flag. So if I remove some stock here, delete, and then I set this to only having 3, you'll see it's now flagged as low stock. The low stock flag is put on an item when the value is at or below par. So if I set it, or sorry, if it's below par, not at par. Simply to give you a context of the stock status, items will go low stock from time to time as the item is ordered when it reaches par, not before that. Therefore, if you continue to use items before your order is delivered, it will dip into the low stock range. The flag is simply there to help give you context and keep an eye on your inventory. Finally, the on order flag is not displayed on the card, but it can be filtered for in the statuses, and it is displayed at the top summary bar here. One last option when viewing items from the cards view is if you have the admin permissions for it, you'll see an edit item button here. Opening the edit item button will show you the admin page for editing an item. This will be gone over more in the admin basics video, but it allows you to edit name, categories, inventory ordering rules, and so on. Finally, we'll move on to the list view. List view gives you a more condensed summary of the item in a more compact form. If enabled, it will show you the par limit values, the on-hand values, and the on-ordered values. Again, these can be restricted in the settings page for your environment. It will also tell you the next thing to expire. It will not display all expiry dates here, keeping everything compact. Any statuses that there may be on your item, its name, and category. This is a more compact way to easily screen through your inventory if you're not needing to make any specific changes. And then you can flip back to the cards view if you need to edit the inventory amounts. Thank you for listening to this video. It was a little bit of a longer one as we had a lot to cover. And I hope you now have a good understanding of the inventory items. If you want to tune back in for some of our other inventory domain videos, soon we'll be going over how to log inventory into the system, log inventory out, and going over the auto ordering system behind our inventory domain. Thank you.